Welcome everybody to Eye of the Serpent Tarot for another pick a card reading. So today's pick a card reading, we're looking at how would your spirit guide or guides describe you. And I just want to do a shout out as I start around the inspiration for this. There's probably any number of topics that many of us on YouTube do around pick a cards, and who came up with the first idea, I have no idea. And I also don't know if the person who inspired me to do this with her reading on the topic or her readings on the topic was the person who came up with it either, but it was the first time I'd come across it that I can recall. So on the day that I'm filming this, I had come through my feed this topic done by, I think it's Chitra Moon Tarot, Chitra. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Apologies if I'm not. But I just wanted to shout out the fact that she did this topic. I thought, what a great topic. Hopefully she won't mind me doing the topic as well. We'll be doing it very, very differently. We have very different styles of reading, but she did a fabulous reading and she's a fabulous reader, and it was how I heard about her. I didn't know. And I just wanted to shout it out because partly I was watching on my television. When I do, I don't tend to leave a comment because I can't on my television, or at least it's beyond my technical knowledge to know how. So I'm shouting it out now. But yeah, I just like to when I can say this is where I've been inspired by, I like to be able to shout that out and recommend the reader. So, but beyond that, I will be looking at this in my own way. I think the one thing that we might very much have in common, the reading that I chose when I watched the pick a card for her, she mentioned that the thing about this sort of topic, when you're asking your spirit guides to describe you, they're going to tell you the truth. And so, it's almost not necessarily a trigger warning, but like knowing that they have a perspective which is for your highest good, but sometimes it's going to be challenging, just like a great coach will challenge you. They won't always tell you the best things in sliced bread. They will be your cheerleader. They will talk about your strengths and will definitely pick that sort of stuff up. But if there's sort of things that blind spots that you might have, things that you don't see, things that others don't say about you, then hopefully this is a way for that to be illuminated for you. So we're going to be focusing on a lot of different aspects of your life and your personality and your soul and your spirit, so it becomes as comprehensive a description as we can get from your spirit guide or guides. One of the things to help with the choices, I'm using a different tarot for each of the piles. I think these tarots, I very much chose three that I feel have very different feelings to them, because that might help you choose. Of course, you can go to more than one if you want, but I feel even the choice tells us something, and so that hopefully is helpful. And I just shuffled and asked for the first major arcana card for each, so that we get the first bit of some of the energy about what your spirit guide is going to talk about as well. There's some other oracle cards under there that will give some other aspects to give us a theme, and then we'll use the tarot. So for pile number 1, we have the Spirit of Life Tarot, and the card is the Star. For pile number 2, we have Tarot of a Distant Kingdom, and the major arcana card is the Hermit. And for pile number 3, we have the Sanctus Concordia Tarot, and the major arcana is Justice. So as I say, but go to more than one if you want, by all means. You might be a bit of an amalgam across two. You might have two really key spirit guides and they have very different views about you. So by all means, if you feel drawn that way, do that. But when you know what reading or readings you want to go to, the timestamps are in the description box below, and I'll see you there. Welcome, pile 1, to your reading. So you came to the reading with the Spirit of Life Tarot, which is an incredibly colourful, vibrant, brilliant sort of deck. And so that in itself, to be drawn to this particular tarot, I think is already a first indication of one of the things that your spirit guide or guides think about you. That and the fact that you were drawn to the card that is the Star. You burn very brightly. You are likely to be highly charismatic. You could be very performative. You could be very much somebody who lights up a room when you go in. But there's also another layer to this, and it is the core of life and the inspiration of life. And your spirit guide wants you to recognize and go back with the primordial embers here to who you are really at your core. It was almost like, who were you before you were in this incarnation? Who were you at the very first spark of energy? Because I feel as though, and this is the kind of celestial energy, this is your celestial soul energy, this is your day-to-day energy, and this is your community energy. I feel that you're guide wants to say to you that you burn incredibly brightly. You are a star. You're also very witchy. You're very powerful. That is a very, very powerful card. That is the sort of witches of the tradition that the particular deck, the Gospel of Aradia, talks about, and a kind of witch tradition that has lasted through the centuries and so forth, often for healing for others, but not always. But it's essentially about power. And we have primordial embers, which is the first spark. Where do you burn most brightly? What is the most powerful, fiery, inspiring energy? So you are incredibly inspiring. You are a star. You are someone who burns incredibly brightly. You have a lot of power, all of those things, and your guide wants you to think about that. It's almost like the first principle. What star was born when you were born? What and how do you make sure, given the I'm fine sitting over here, that you don't burn yourself out? I think this is something that your spirit guide wants you to think about at the moment. You have a lot of power. You have a very strong community sort of focus to it. You've burned very brightly. You'll always burn very brightly. But that could do a number of things. One of the things that it could be doing on a day-to-day level, I think that your guides want you to think about is it drawing not so friendly fire to you? Do you inspire jealousy? That is something that could be very much there. In fact, on a couple of levels. One may be if you're charismatic, you're a star in that kind of sense, as I say, you light up the room when you go in, all of that kind of thing. But I also feel that sometimes what can happen is when someone has a very strong sense of self and a very strong personality, a lot of charisma, or all of that kind of thing, people initially are drawn to them because they want to be like them. And then there is almost a sense of they then start incrementally to realize how they're not like them. And you are so strong and so bright because you know who your core is. You know who you are. You have your own strength. You are not trying to be anyone other than yourself. This is a star who's up on a stage on their own. This does not need a backing group. This is not one in a collaboration. You are one of a kind, that kind of energy. And everybody kind of wants to be that. But often someone like you will draw that energy to you, and then people will start to try and nitpick at you and try and, like the first arrow, then another arrow, then another arrow. And because you are so strong and you are powerful and you are sure of yourself, you can take a lot of this, but there is a certain humor in this card, and there is a warning in this card, which is there a point at which it becomes too much? So I think that your guide wants you to think about, particularly if you focus a lot of your strength on the community, on healing others, are you healing yourself enough? And could you burn yourself out trying to be all things to all people? So I think there is a bit of a warning. I think that your guide thinks that you have enormous potential, enormous strength, enormous firepower, enormous creativity, all of those things. But it is a double-edged sword. And you may sometimes think, I'm fine, I just keep going, I'm up on the stage, the show must go on, all of that kind of thing. I think that we're going to sort of see when we look at a little bit more of the description that there is a little bit of a warning here. It's not necessarily pride in a bad way, but it's a pride in a way that could limit you or could exhaust you. And I think that this is basically your spirit guide wanting you not to have that happen. So let's get a little bit more detail. We're going to use the tarot. We're firstly going to look at how they would describe your soul, which is picking up a lot of this sort of like the initial spark, the primordial embers. You're a fire person in many ways. I don't know whether you are a fire sign or have that strongly, or whether it's just the creative inspiration, the sort of like the action, all of that kind of thing, the ambition, all of those things burn very strongly in you. And it's part of who you are, and never apologize for that. I'm hearing that. Never apologize for that. Never apologize for being a star. Even if you do get the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, as the bard would put it, you're strong enough for that. But it is understanding. It's kind of more like understanding why that's happening rather than succumbing to it all. And it is also, sometimes you may want somebody to heal you as well. So I think there's that kind of energy. So we're firstly going to look at this very fiery part of you. Then we're going to have a look at really kind of your personality, both with people and more generally, and how that's playing out at the moment. And then we'll have a look at what your spirit guide wants you to evolve into being. So a little bit more, let's have a look at this primordial embers, that first spark of life, that first spark of energy that creates the star, that creates the light that lights up the sky, that creates the light within you that lights up others. Queen of Pentacles reversed, Three of Swords reversed, King of Swords, Six of Wands, Seven of Pentacles reversed. So there you are again. I think I'm being drawn firstly to the Six of Wands. I think that your spirit guide is particularly pointing that out. You are someone who burns so bright that you are normally victorious. You are used to victory. In fact, you might be so used to victory that you don't notice this until maybe it gets to the point where it's overwhelming. So I do think that you are used to and accustomed to success. It's in your spiritual DNA. It's the fire of what you have. It's a very strong energy. I'm getting that some of you may be born in the year of the tiger because that tiger is so strong in that, but you don't have to be. But there's that kind of fiery energy within that, the confidence, the bravery, the magnetic sort of energy that comes with the year of the tiger. And even if you aren't, you have born in that year, there's a kind of an energy of that with you. So you are a winner. You are a star. You stand out. You do. And you're very fair. So there's not, your spirit guide says you haven't let this go to your head and so that you're unfair. With the King of Swords, you have your energy in regulation. You don't use this to have one over anyone else. Another reason why we might be seeing that I'm fine card, because the last thing you expect is for people to be sending fire at you because you're not doing it. You're not burning bright to hurt them. You're just burning bright because that's who you are. But your spirit guide is saying that it makes it hard for you to find your place and your people because you burn so bright, because you are like an original, victorious energy of creativity. It's hard for you to ground your energy sometimes, particularly that sort of fiery celestial energy with the Queen of Pentacles reversed and the Seven of Pentacles reversed. One of the things, and with the Three of Swords reversed, one of the things your guide is saying is that sometimes it's painful. Sometimes it's painful to shine so bright. Sometimes it's hard to find the people who'll be loyal to you and that you can be loyal to. Sometimes it's hard to find your home. I'm getting that you are so original in this energy that sometimes being understood is difficult. In this 3D world, there's a kind of a heaviness that it's almost rejecting your fire. And this is not to say that, you could never have friends or lovers or anything like that. But there is something where you are, your spirit guide is saying you have to understand, and they're asking you to think in the King of Swords way, that mature way of thinking, of understanding that's a bit detached. You have to understand that you will be someone that many maybe at a distance look up to just as a star, but there is something lonely about being on the stage, and you may struggle at times to find the kind of home, the hearth and home, and the sense of these are my people. Even with the Strega, that came up as the energy for community, because that's from the Gospel of Aradia, and I use that deck very much around community because I feel it really has that energy. And so it's almost like, again, standing alone in the community because of your strength. And see how she has a kind of, not necessarily an arrow in that sense, but an arrow in a way, your own arrow, and it's partly your mind and your own capacity to understand that. That's part of your strength. But I think that your spirit guide wants to say that your very strength can make it hard. I'm actually getting, this is really interesting. I'm getting like if you were to put fire either near just dirt, the ground, it will not burn. If you were to put it in the sort of like lush sort of like forestry, which is all very kind of, it's new and it's not dried out or any of those sort of things, it will find it hard to burn. It's like, it's hard for you to find, as I say, the kind of natural landing to be. It's almost hard for you to be in the material world, actually, I think. But your spirit guide says that your understanding of this relieves the pain. You yearn to be back in the heavens. You yearn to be a star in the sky, I think. And it's kind of where you belong, but you are here for a reason. We are all here for a reason. And your very creativity and so forth will make you victorious more often than not. And as I say, you will be fair, but I feel you will probably find, it's not to say that you will be completely lonely and have no one, but I think that people who are close to you, really close to you and really understand you will be a small group, a cherished group, and a group that I think you will protect with enormous savagery. But I think you need them, you need to let them protect you too. You're so used to having to be the strong one and having to say you're fine. I really feel like this, your spirit guide is wanting you to also let those who can understand you, those who aren't threatened, get closer and help you. And don't tell them you're always fine. Sometimes you need comfort as well, Pile 1. Okay, so then how would they describe your frontal personality? If that's the incredibly fiery, strong, but somewhat alien energy of your kind of soul, how is it playing out at the moment in your sort of personality that other people are seeing? How does your spirit guide or guides see that? Hanged Man, 9 of Pentacles reversed, 4 of Pentacles reversed, 5 of Pentacles. Gee, this is something about being at home or not on earth for you. Some of you may be starseeds, actually, I'm getting. You may feel like a stranger in a strange land with the star there. You might have been drawn to it because you have a sense of that. This is probably a confirmation if that's the case. You see things very differently to other people. I think you sometimes find it hard to be seen. Your spirit guide is saying you are sometimes lonely. They see that you are lonely. I think they feel for you that you are lonely. And again, it doesn't mean you're always on your own or whatever, but there's a kind of a broader sense and a very, 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 very internal. You had to go internal. Your firepower is internal, but you're not always understood. That's what I'm getting. It's a very strong energy like that. Sometimes you literally, the way this is, you feel the door is shut to you in the material world. And you feel like, oh, I've just got to be realistic about that. In fact, the 7 of Swords reverse is a bit like the I'm fine card. It's a bit like if people were to say to you, do you feel lonely? Do you feel like people don't understand you? You would be, your response would be, it's just what it is. It's just who I am and I'm used to it. And it is what it is. There's a stoicism about you, actually. That's a really strong energy. You have a huge stoicism. And your spirit guide says that your frontal personality has a lot of warmth and a lot of love, that you actually do really care about people. That's clear from the Strega. You want to connect on that level and you want to creatively connect. So using the side of your personality that's charismatic and the side that understands this and the side that knows how to win, your spirit guide is saying you can undo some of that energy of being different. You can shift the foundations of where you are and what you're around and who you're around sufficiently to actually start to find your community and find your people. Because you're used to being alone and you've kind of pragmatically gone, it just goes with the territory. But there are people for you. And there is a richness and there is a capacity to be in the beauty. Look at this, the beauty of the material world. Look at how gorgeous that is. That fits your light. That fits your fire. So I think that you actually have what you need to the very fire and creativity that makes you a winner, makes it possible for you to find your people. It's just that you've been so used to this kind of pushback that you expect the closed door. And I think that what your spirit guide is saying, you can create that or you can undo all of that and find your people. And this is what your spirit guide wants you to do. Spirit guide doesn't want you to be alone, doesn't want the price of stardom, so to speak, to be loneliness. It often is in this world. And it's sort of like you have to think differently about it. Find your people. So there are other people who have this fire. There are other people who are self-actualized. There are other people who won't be threatened by the fact that you know who you are because they know who they are. that's what your spirit guide wants you to find, or your spirit guides want you to find. So how would they describe your evolution? How do they see your evolution now? Justice, Eight of Pentacles, Queen of Wands reversed. Oh, that's interesting. Two of Swords reversed. All right. What they're saying at the moment is that your evolution comes in almost muting some of that fire a bit, or at least not focusing as much on that. For some of you, there could literally be something to learn that helps you bring things into balance. Having a cause could potentially bring those skills into a different way, which is not so much about your sort of energy, but it's more about the cause potentially. But more than anything, it's saying that there's two things. One, I'm getting that for some of you, you should go to the third pile as well, which was justice, just to see what else there is there, because the fact that they came up around the evolution, and it's one of the major arcana, and it's a major arcana that came up for the pile 3. For some of you, if you feel that, if that feels right, go and do that. But otherwise, I think this is finding a cause. This is finding something new to learn. It is focusing in on that, and something that has a material outcome, so that your fiery energy is not so much about you being a star, nor is it that you have to have all the answers instantly, because I think this is the other thing, your sort of power and your strength and your sureness, people, and your general tendency towards victory. People have expected you to have all the answers. And another thing that might have become a pushback to you is when you haven't had an answer, people have been upset about that. So looking less at having all the answers, being the center of attention, all of that sort of stuff, what you really should be focusing on now is finding the cause and developing the material skills to be able to manifest that, because this way you will marry your kind of victory, your self-actualization, your creativity with something that in the material world helps you find your people. That's what this is about. You were born to burn brightly. So if you want to connect with others, burn brightly for a cause and find the things. Some of you would make amazing human rights barristers or something like that, like enormous charisma to use that if you went and did that. It's just an example, but like finding a cause, that kind of thing, because remember, you have this very strong mind as well. Justice is a very compatible card with the King of Swords, and you have that on a soul level. That's the thing at this point, that it's like focusing on a cause and on the outcomes rather than on people seeing you doing it and you having all the answers. You still get to use all your firepower, pile 1, but you do it in a way that doesn't draw the slings and arrows in your direction. Okay, so let's have a look at some of the other aspects and the ways that your spirit guide would describe you. So I wanted to just look at 4 different decks that have different aspects about you. So the first is to look at your kind of instinct. What do you want on an instinctive level? And so I thought a spirit animal would be a good way of asking your spirit guide how they see your natural instincts. Who are you on that level? Wow. Spider. That's interesting. In this deck, and the colouring again, look at all those reds. Spider represents creative inspiration, weaving a web of creative inspiration. So that again goes back to this, on an instinctive level, you are creativity. You are creation. That's what you are. And that's why it's incredibly inspiring and people are drawn to you, but also why there could be a dissonance that occurs when they're trying to sort of see themselves when you shine so brightly, that kind of energy. But I also think the other thing to be aware of is that spiders are often maligned. Most spiders, won't bite you unless they're attacked. Most spiders, are necessary for the web and weave of life and all of those kind of things. But people always think, you could get caught in the web or that they are a danger in some way. So your creative instincts may be such that they are a bit ahead of their time, or they're a little bit threatening sometimes, which might be again why finding a cause that sort of grounds it in some way could help you. But I think it is saying, pile 1, that you will draw a lot of people, but you might scare them at the same time. So that it is something you're going to always have to balance. Okay, so then let's have a look at your creative energy and your inspiration, all that kind of thing, with the Color Goddess deck. Orange, enthusiasm, fun, vitality. Like it's all, like it's the root chakra, it's the sacral chakra, it's the solar plexus, creativity. Like you are, there's a reason you came to this deck. This deck is very bright. It's you. Like this deck is very you. And your spirit guide is drawn to that deck and drawn to that sort of energy. They're certainly not saying don't be your creative, wonderful self. They're trying to find a way for you to use that in a way that also connects you with other people, because I think they're concerned that people are threatened by you, frightened by you, and you may as a consequence feel alone. Or that you have to sacrifice. You've just kind of accepted that you have to sacrifice either your creativity to be accepted or have to sacrifice acceptance to be creative. And they're trying to find a mid-range point. But they're saying that you are vibrant and own that vibrance. That's a beautiful and wonderful thing. Let's see a pair of planets that also help describe you. Wow. Pluto and Pluto. You're very powerful. You threaten a lot of people. Like, I'm going to call it, it is the case. You really do. And I think that you are an agent of evolution because you are that creative spark. You are the thing that begins the new. You are the thing that inspires the new. And you burn incredibly brightly. And you are meant to be transformative. I think your spirit guide says to you, though, you are able to transform yourself as well. And I'm feeling like it's kind of like you can transform into something that can be accepted to bring something in being without ever losing the capacity to transform back to that original fiery element. I feel almost like I'm sort of getting a vision of you coming from those sort of like primordial embers with this spark of creativity and charisma and energy and power, and then finding a way to ground that, connect it to others, and then you return to the primordial embers and you're refueled, and then you come out and do it again. Like I feel like that's the energy. The other thing about you that your spirit guide is saying is you're ancient. Like the Pluto energy is one of the furthest out planets, if not the furthest out, and very, very powerful, very, very ancient energy. Also able to be in the underworld when necessary. You can burn bright there as well. Very powerful. You're a very powerful person. But don't let yourself become that I'm fine at the beginning. Like, I think that's like in many ways that person lying on the ground with the arrows. That's the most important message in this whole thing for you, I think, because it's like you are so strong that it's sort of like, I'll just keep taking it, keep taking it, keep taking it. One of the things that I thought of actually around that is the story of Rasputin. So Rasputin was the mad monk, the mystic, the magician in the last Russian court, last Tsar and Tsarina. And when he fell from grace and people were threatened by him and went after him, it took a hell of a lot for him to be taken down and killed. Now, I'm not, obviously not sort of wanting to talk. I'm not talking about that happening to you. This is obviously metaphorical, but there was a lot that was taken into the act in that way for Rasputin. So very, very powerful. So don't allow yourself a safe harbor. I think your spirit guides want to say, don't feel you have to take everything. And don't feel that everybody's worth it. Like if there's somebody who's just all these slings and arrows because they're threatened by you, you don't have to spend your time with them. They have their own issues. Okay, so that then leads to heart energy. What heart energy at the moment does your spirit guide see in you? Recovering heart, step onto the road to deeper healing. Yeah, I think you need to be able to heal for yourself. I think that you have already suffered for being different, for being strong, all of that kind of thing. But I think your spirit guide says you have it within you to navigate this very, very well, but you have to kind of allow that you don't sacrifice your creativity too much, nor do you sacrifice your connection too much. It's about balance, really, which is also why justice came up. Okay, so let's just get a couple of pieces of magic that your spirit guide sees in you to help you with this. Healing, I'm going to put that there. You were able to heal others. Remember, we saw that with Strega. Part of your power is to be able to heal others, but you can also heal yourself. That's why you wouldn't end up in a Rasputin situation. You're going, but it's you have that kind of strength. It's just understanding that you also need to be gentle with yourself. You would be gentle with others. You have a gentle strength. It's just a fiery strength, so it's a little bit sort of intimidating. And what else do we get? The crone. Okay, yeah, you're ancient. There's a reason that got drawn over to there. You are a very old soul. You are one of the primordial embers. That's what this is saying. You come from a very ancient fire of creation. And I'm getting, sometimes that's tiring. Sometimes it's tiring, and your spirit guides see that. That's why you also have to use the wisdom to heal yourself as well as others. Okay, so just to finish off, I mean, that's sort of like giving us a pretty good idea. Your spirit guide thinks that you are an extraordinarily creative, old soul, but extraordinarily creative, able to kind of, like the phoenix, re-emerge, burn bright again, but that you are going to, and you probably already have experienced a lot of people being threatened or intimidated, drawn to you, and then kind of like trying to pick you apart. But your spirit guide believes that there are others who you can connect with, and you can find those by finding a common cause. That's the thing. That's the evolutionary trick for you now, to find a place where you are appreciated for what you bring to the table without you being the only one that is seen doing it. That's the piece of the puzzle that you can now take. So we're just going to ask for a kind of wild card hope that your spirit guide has for you now, just to close out the reading. Man on fire. Okay. So I don't know what gender you are or you identify with. It doesn't really matter. But I think it would be saying in either case, finding your other half, finding the other person who does the duet with you, finding the other people with fire. There are other people like you. It's just that it's the nature of people like you is you draw a lot of people who aren't like you, and then you deal with the issues. But there are other people like you. And so don't lose that fire. Just find the person that can actually burn just as brightly with you. Whether it's a lover or whether it's a collaborator or whether it's a group of people, it doesn't matter. But that's what your spirit guide wants for you to heal, to not feel alone, to not feel misunderstood, to be able to find a cause and find your kind. That's basically it. But don't lose that fire. That's who you are, and that's one of the beautiful things about you, Pile 1. So I hope that resonates. I hope you enjoyed the reading. If so, please like the video and subscribe. If you care to share in the comments, I would love to hear. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, Pile 2, to your reading. So you came to the reading with the Tarot of a Distant Kingdom. And there's a few reasons that I chose these different decks that I think builds into this, for the kind of energy of the sort of soul that would come to it and the sort of spirit guide that would be around that. And this deck, a couple of things. Firstly, it really makes me feel kind of the divine masculine. If I was going to choose divine masculine and feminine, it feels like a masculine deck to me. Doesn't mean you have to be a man, doesn't mean you have to identify with a man, but I do feel that there's a kind of a sense of what we would think of as a divine masculine around you, or potentially around your guide. It just might be a very divine masculine type of guide. But the things of the structure of the world, the things, and this is not about gender. This is about how we kind of describe those energies. It can be in any body and any gender, but the sort of structure of the world, the beliefs of the world, the intellect as opposed to the heart, action, power as opposed to nurturing creativity, very broad sense. So that's part of this deck. The other part is, it's interesting that the Hermit came out because I feel it looks kind of ancient to me. It feels esoteric. It feels almost academic, like the Hermit card is almost the perfect card from this deck for how I feel this deck is like, this sort of ascetic, spiritual sort of element. So I feel that, if you were drawn to this and you're drawn to the Hermit, you probably can identify with what I'm saying anyway, but your spirit guide sees you as very spiritual, very contemplative, a light to shine in the darkness, knowledgeable, old soul. Then it's really interesting what we're seeing here, because we have your celestial energy, your community energy, and then your everyday energy. And there's a very interesting thing about this, because here this is really fitting with this. Hidden scriptures. You are someone, your spirit guide would describe you as someone who has deep esoteric knowledge, both from this life probably and from others. In this life, it wouldn't surprise me at all if you either dedicated yourself to some sort of spiritual quest, if you are very drawn to esoterica in terms of knowledge and information. You kind of like see it almost like a memory. You are very connected to that sort of thing. And your spirit guide sees you as very knowledgeable, very wise in all of that. But it has a studious feeling, it has an academic feeling, and it has a sense of great gravitas and truth. You have that energy. And then in terms of in your community, the connection, why you're here on that level to community, we have the gospel. Some of you may be natural spiritual leaders and teachers. You may have decided to take some sort of spiritual path as a career. You may be, as I say, academic and a researcher and someone who looks into ancient texts. You may be someone that people naturally gravitate to. Your spirit guide saying, even if you aren't in the world of the esoteric or the world of the spiritual or the world of the religious, and it could be any of those, you are someone who people think is right. Like if they were looking for answers, if they were looking for truth, if they were looking for something of a deeper level, you're someone that people are naturally drawn to. It's almost like the gospel according to whoever you are, whatever your name is, and people respond to that. There's enormous gravitas actually within you. But the interesting thing that your spirit guide wants to say, and I think I said at the introduction that maybe this is going to be a little bit of a trigger warning about the challenges, because your spirit guide wants everything to work the best, for you to work to the truest element of who you are, is that it's almost as though you have this great depth, this great knowledge, this great spiritual understanding, but it's like people, and even if they're responding to your gravitas, and I think they do, in a weird way, it's like at the moment the way that you either choose to or you feel forced to package all of this is almost ephemeral. Like it feels like trying to sort of like talk about something at its greatest depth and complexity and academic rigor in, Instagram post. And it's nothing against Instagram, but it's like it's so brief and what you're talking about is so deep and so nuanced. So I think that there is something about you bring this great wisdom, this great knowledge, this great nuance to whatever you do. And your spirit guide is saying that is really who you are at your core, and it's where you are at your best with others. But there's something going on at the moment in your day-to-day life where you're almost being asked to dumb it down or package it in some way that doesn't feel as nourishing. It may have, you may be very, very good, your spirit guide is saying, is when you are forced to do that, to get the key message that people will go, they'll go away with the key message. For some of you, you could be ironically working in something like marketing or something like that, where the pithiness of the message, the getting to the core, getting to the thing that has an emotional or an inspirational hook is there, and you're actually bringing incredible depth because behind everything there's a complexity, and you're able to say it in its most simple way, and in its own way that could be amazing. That could be in fact doing this in the most brilliant way you could possibly do it. I think it was Edward de Bono talked about that the key is the complexity in the back end, simplicity at the front. So at its best, your spirit guide is saying that can work brilliantly, but there is a risk. And particularly because you are so spiritual, it's such a spiritual thing with you, and it's so esoteric that it's how do you get this information across in a way that doesn't become like the kind of, the takeaway meal that felt very nourishing at the time, but 2 hours later you're really hungry again because it hasn't got the really core stuff. So I think there's an interesting challenge that your spirit guide wants you to think about at the moment, because you have a great deal of knowledge, whether you sort of like consciously academically sort it or whether it's just there to access. And I'm getting that for some of you, spirit guide is saying the one takeaway they want you to have is that You may think you don't know, but you do know, and you have to remember. So that's another message that's coming through. So, okay. We're going to use tarot. We're going to look a little bit more about the celestial side, the hidden scriptures. And then we're going to have a little bit of a look about your frontal personality, which fits a bit more with what's going on in the everyday and to some degree with other people. Then we'll see how your spirit guide sees you evolving. So a little bit more about this core celestial aspect of you, which is the deep esoteric knowledge. What does your spirit guide, how would they describe you in that sense? Knight of Coins reversed, Five of Coins reversed, the Devil reversed, Knight of Cups, and Eight of Cups. Okay. There's a very specific message here. It's not going to be for everyone, but it's for some, and their spirit guide is talking about this. There are some of you that have decided on a very deep spiritual level to sacrifice and walk away from conventional love to follow like a mystic's path. There are some really, really deep mystics in this group. Now, mystics at its most pure sense is somebody who does not necessarily look for love on earth, but only looks to the beloved, which is the divine in whatever form that you want. Sufis will see the beloved as Allah, and Allah, however you pronounce that to pronounce it correctly. The connection with Christ and with God for Christianity and so forth. There is a sense of the divine as the beloved. Some of you are that. You have walked away from, or you tend to walk away from, sort of the classic romantic love and all its temptations with the devil reversed. You've also walked away from, actually, you know what this makes me think of? It makes me think of someone like St. Francis of Assisi. It feels like walking away from the material benefits and so forth, the fiery sort of energy there with one of the pentacles, the wealth or lack of wealth, walking away from temporal power, walking away from conventional love. On a spiritual level, you're a mystic. You belong to the mystic tradition. You belong to Metatron. Some of you may, in fact, have Metatron as a spirit guide. Or maybe Raziel with the kind of scriptures, with the knowledge, that kind of thing. Like on a spiritual level, you've almost renounced the world. And that doesn't mean that it's wrong to be here, but it's like that you are very mystical on a spiritual level. But you're here in the world, and you've got a message for people in the world, and you're within all the things that you almost eschew are the things that you're having to deal with to bring your message out. So your spirit guide sees you as being much more of a mystic and an ascetic and a hermit. Like you are the person who probably would sit on the top of a mountain and contemplate the universe. And you'd be probably happier doing that, to be frank. But you're here to bring a message. You're here to preach the gospel, I mean, in a broad sense. So given that that's what your spirit guide sees your soul as being, what about your frontal personality, where you are in the world now? How does that actually operate? Particularly when we've got the challenge of the takeaway. Remember, you are so deep, but the communication channels of this world are by and large so shallow that it's like, how do you manage that? Queen of Batons reversed, Ace of Swords, Eight of Swords, Three of Pentacles reversed, Six of Pentacles reversed. So one of the things about you is you're very, very, what your spirit guide is saying is that you're very, very deep, very, very ascetic, very, very spiritual. You have virtually no ego. Virtually no ego. And in one way that is good, I guess, because like on a spiritual level, like you almost have to dissolve the ego to merge with the divine. But if you are in a world where you're meant to bring a message out and where things have to be flashy and quick and sort of like very beguiling, that is a challenge for you. But on the other hand, your spirit guide says, Whenever you hit a challenge where you kind of feel a bit caught intellectually, you have an inspiration. Now, whether it comes from your guide or whether it's just that you can draw on so much knowledge that you can get to the core of something. In fact, you do get to the core of something. What I'm getting is that you'd be the sort of person, if you were researching something, you just open a book and you would just naturally find the answer. It's like it's very precise because you know it all so well. This terrain you know so well, whether you consciously know it or whether you're remembering it from other lives. So although your natural tendency is to want to go away and be a hermit and not be seen, you have this kind of brilliance, this kind of like capacity to see through things and to cut through your own shyness and your own, you have a kind of distaste for the powers of the world. You really do. And I can understand it, but you really do have that. You really would prefer to be, in the celestial realms, and that's it, to be frank. But you have the capacity to cut through that, to find and to find the core thing to say. And this is the thing about the takeaway. As I was saying at the beginning, I feel that your spirit guide is saying that the genius of you, when it all comes together and it works, and you kind of like, I think almost your guide is saying you have to kind of almost imprison your own distaste for the methodology, and you just think of the message, you will get the key message. You will get the key message out there. And only you can. This is not something you can do in collaboration with others. This is something that comes from a knowledge and depth that you have that others don't have. But paradoxically, and this is often the case, paradoxically, when you really fully embrace that and you get the message out, that's what brings in the equals to you. That's what brings in others who are like you. They may, but I'm getting for you that your guide is saying it's not another mystic. It's almost like you are a very rarefied combination of what you would almost call the spirit element as a mystic and the mind. You're very academic, you're very clever, it's very much of the intellect. But it's almost as though when you do that, when you get over the distaste for the material world and for all this other stuff that goes on, and you get over your own reticence in even being seen, and you bring a message out because it is so singular, it's not coming from anyone else, that brings in the other elements. It's almost like you would meet your equal in pentacles, you would meet so earthly things, you would meet your equal in fire. So in creative things, you would meet your equal in cups, which is water. And it's like a Gestalt effect where, it becomes the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. But you're almost like, you're like the real understanding, the aha moment. You're the brains of the group in a way. And that's the way that you can find a group. Because it then allows you to be more and more of what you are because the other elements are balanced out. So I think that your spirit guide says that the point about the takeaway is not, it's to get over the distaste of it and the frustration, but to understand this becomes an intellectual exercise in and of itself, to crystallize it down to its most pure, simple message that then allows the growth into the world and brings the people to you that will take up the bits that are not of interest to you. Because you're the sort of person that if you're not interested, you're just not interested. And so you need to draw the others. Because whether you like it or not, we live in the fast food generation. We live in that world. So let's see how your spirit guide would like you to evolve, pile 2, with this understanding of yourself from their perspective. The Hanged Man reversed, the Empress reversed, the Three of Swords reversed, the Sun reversed. Okay. Sorry, I don't mean to sort of half laugh, but I feel like your spirit guide is saying, whether you like it or not, you have to evolve in the earth. So you need to think differently about this. Mother Earth is actually giving birth to what you want and the connection that you want more than you're thinking. And yes, it's painful to be separated from the divine, but there's a purpose to this. And until you really, really embrace the value of that, you're not going to be following your life path. So your guide is saying, yes, you are the natural ascetic, you are the natural mystic, you are the natural academic, you're all of those things, and you have almost a kind of distaste for the 3D world. And there's an understanding for that. Your spirit guide probably shares it, to be honest. But you are here for a reason, and it is partly to share this with others because only you can share the knowledge that you have. But it's also because we all need to grow and we all need to evolve, and we can only do it in space and time. So you need to kind of connect to that. I think there's also a little bit of a tilt here to connect to your heart a bit more. You don't have to be alone on that level. Even if you feel you do, you don't. I think your spirit guide wants you to think about that because it's painful to be alone. The sun needs the moon. That kind of energy. Okay, so let's just see a few more descriptors to sort of like round this out a bit. So let's look firstly at your natural instinctive self using a spirit animal as a way for your spirit guide to describe you. Buffalo. So it's very strong. You're very strong. And your guide wants to say that underneath all of this, you know, your mystical side is grateful and connected to the divine. And in a sense, you know, that kind of gratitude and love is natural to you. But it's also to stay on an instinctive level. If you get out of your mind a little bit, then you will connect to the earth and the cycles of earth and abundance and creativity. You're meant to actually have some sort of success out of this. And again, don't look down on that either. You have come in with some very special gifts and you're grateful for them on a spiritual level. So it's now saying connecting with the cycles of earth and create abundance out of it. You have a natural instinct to be able to do this. This is what I'm saying. You have this inspiration. Once you get over your own sort of like, is that worthy? You know, is this what I'm here for? And you accept that there is something to be said for the 3D world and all of that kind of thing. You're actually meant to create something very abundant out of this for yourself and for others. And this is also the gospel. I think you teach others. You'll teach others how to do it once you're prepared to kind of take that energy on. Okay, so let's see the inspirational sort of energy that your spirit guide would describe you with. Emerald, fortune, luck, luxury. Okay, so your spirit guide's now doing, it's not tough love because in fact, it's almost the opposite. The last thing you need is tough love, to be honest. You're kind of so ascetic and so self-sacrificing that you're missing out. And that's what your spirit guide wants you to see. Emerald, you know, you are meant to have luck. You're meant to have great outcomes. All this knowledge is meant to do something. In doing that, you will also help others. But the two things are not antithetical, pile two. Success, enjoyment of the world, all of those things are not antithetical to the mystical path at all. But I think you do with the takeaway. I think we've got another level on that. I think there's a part of you that feels all of that is a bit beneath you. But it's not, you know, you are what you think you are. There's not anything wrong with that. It's just that you're missing out. And I think your spirit guide's wanting to kind of remind you of that. Okay, so let's see, what would your spirit guide say in terms of a couple of planets to describe you? Venus and Jupiter. See, you are a very loving, caring person, but you're meant to be lucky. I find this kind of amusing. It's sort of like you're sort of so the opposite of what one normally needs to deal with around spiritual stuff. I mean, a lot of the time people, you know, around spiritual stuff, the struggle is to let go of the material and to kind of like see the sort of higher purpose, but you're kind of the opposite. But your guides are saying, but you know, you are a lovely person. Your love is very pure. You do want to help others. You are very generous. A lot of this is about that. That's why I got the St. Francis of Assisi feeling around you. So I think maybe what your spirit guide is trying to gently say to you, pile two, because I really have to deal with you gently because you're very, very clever and you'll have the best arguments against this. But I think what your spirit guide is trying to say is that yes, you have all that knowledge and yes, you can connect to the divine and yes, all of those things. But just think what you could do for others if you find you use your genius and your knowledge to help them in the way that they can access. And if you're more successful, then you can do that more. I almost feel like your spirit guide, it's amusing. I'm sort of like, I feel like I'm grinning from ear to ear because I feel like your spirit guide sort of wanting to kind of like negotiate with you, because you're the sort of person you'd need to negotiate with because you're very clever. But your spirit guide is saying, like, you know, that there's more, and it won't get in the way of your spiritual connection at all. All it will do is heighten your capacity to be able to spread the word. So, okay, let's see your heart energy. I mean, it's obviously quite lovely with the Venus-Jupiter, but let's see how your spirit guide would describe your heart energy. Beautiful heart, open your wings and fly. I think part of this is, to be honest, that because you have a lot of knowledge, you have a lot of capacity to see and judge that as important, and you really don't want to sacrifice that, and you really want to protect that, and you want to help other people with it. There is a little bit of a reluctance about, you know, would I if I start to move towards luck and fortune and all of those things, you know, into the takeaway world, is it just a matter of a series of rationalizations and compromises and I've lost my connection? And I think that your spirit guide's really gently trying to tell you no, that you have that so deeply ingrained that you couldn't do that even if you tried. The issue now is that take that beauty, that mystical tradition, that preparedness to self-sacrifice if necessary, but embrace luck and embrace fortune that is meant to be the wings on which you fly so that you can help others. That's what this is all about. Okay. So given that, let's have a look at a couple of decks just to see some magic that you have that can help, that your spirit guide wants to remind you of. Vanish. Okay. If you feel that you are somehow interacting with those that could take you away from what was pure and what you want to do, or if you feel that those energies were starting to rise in you, you have more than enough spiritual and magical power to banish that. So do not worry. You are not going to give in to the devil. The devil reverse there. It's not going to happen. And the protector, defense, boundaries, and safety. Your boundaries are protected. You protect them. Your spirit guide protects them, but you protect them. You really don't need your spirit guide for that. You keep everything under very strict regulation. You also protect others. But you know what? Again, you can protect them a lot more by teaching them how to protect themselves, and the way to do that is to be able to pass on your knowledge. Okay. So just to finish off this reading for you, just want to see what your spirit guide would like to wish for you as a kind of a wild card energy, something to just kind of like shock another sort of piece of understanding for you in their perspective of you. Wow, this is interesting given one of the other readings, Woman on Fire. For some of you, and it doesn't matter whether you're a female or male, what you identify with, none of that matters. This is about feeling the excitement of connection with others, of love, of the heart, of creativity. I think that your guide, gently but firmly, is wanting you to enjoy life a bit more. You won't lose your spiritual ability. You won't lose the knowledge. This is too much part of you. You won't detach from the divine, any of those things. But you know what? You're allowed to have a bit of fun as well. And when you do, and you use a bit of fun and connection with others to bring your message out, you're going to help a lot of people. So I hope that registers. It's one of the more amusing readings I've done because, as I say, you're kind of very different to what most guides probably have to deal with. But it's wonderful. I really like your energy. I feel like your guide. I want you to have a bit of fun. So I hope that resonates. I hope you enjoyed the reading. If so, please like the video and subscribe. If you care to share in the comments, I'd love to hear. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, Pile 3, to your reading. So you came to the reading with Justice from the Sanctus Concordia Tarot. The first thing I would say actually with the other cards that are here, this is your kind of celestial energy as your spirit guide sees it. This is your community energy, and this is your kind of day-to-day energy as your spirit guide sees it at the moment. But this is what drew you here, and this is the tarot that drew you here. The first thing I would say is that your spirit guide sees you as almost a bit of a walking paradox. And the reason I say that is that there was an intent behind the decks that I chose. The first deck was kind of almost agnostic to gender or kind of divine masculine, divine feminine identity. It was more a kind of almost a creativity across the board, sort of like community kind of energy to it. This pile 2 was kind of a divine masculine sort of feeling deck in many ways. And this deck, Sanctus Concordia, has a very strong divine feminine feeling to it. So the first thing I expected to be saying about this, apart from that your spirit guide sees you as either someone who is here for justice in some way, and where justice is very, very important, maybe very strong Libra energy in your chart, you would also tilt towards the divine feminine, towards the things, and this is not about gender, as you would know, this is about the kind of things we ascribe to that, which is the nurturing, the creativity. So it would be justice within the sense of mercy and compassion, a very Binah type feeling in the Kabbalah, so not so much Chokmah, which is the divine masculine, and it's sort of, the justice and wisdom without the compassion, but with the marriage of the compassion. So, and I do think that your spirit guide does think that of you, but it interests me here that in the community, they see you as someone who is almost showing the divine masculine. Now, it's not about gender, so you could be a woman or identify as a woman and still have this sort of role. So it's like, and it's part of your strength actually. But it's like at your core, what your spirit guide sees is the tilt towards the divine feminine, but how you are manifesting it in this world. It's almost like there's something about what's going on in your life at the moment, what your career is, what your persona is, whatever it is, requires almost more of a divine masculine approach and a very visible strength, and the strength of the sun as opposed to, say, the moon. But the interesting thing is, here on a celestial level, we have whispers of eternity, which is about almost all of the times all at once. And so it's about the past, the present, and the future, and about the whispers of all of it, and the understanding of something on a more holistic long term. And I feel like this is saying, this group, your spirit guide is saying that the sum total of your lives are somehow exceptionally important at the moment, and they kind of bring this balance. So I feel that for many of you, some of you may be a little bit gender fluid, some of you may literally or not, but like you may not really within identify much with either, and even if you're comfortable with whatever your sort of biological form is. Some of you may feel, I have spent many lives as a woman and now I'm a man. I've spent many lives as a man and now I'm a woman. There could be sort of something like that going on. Or for some of you, a large part of what you're really focusing on in this life at the moment is about the balance of the things, the divine masculine and the divine feminine. But I feel it's about something about the strength to take something into the material world, taking into account the importance of it almost karmically. And it has to be done very fairly. So it's a very interesting energy because, as I say, it's almost like you're a walking paradox on some level. People might find you very hard to understand. They see you as a leader. They see you as very strong. They see you as very fair. And they feel like you have a sense of destiny and history around you. But they may struggle to fully get you, I think. So let's use the tarot a bit. We're firstly going to look at a little bit more around this sort of like this sense of almost all timelines at once. It's sort of like you're all genders at once, you're all timelines at once. You're both what is below and what is above, as above, so below. Very interesting. So let's see a little bit more around the celestial side of you, how your spirit guide sees you. But then let's see how they see you in terms of, your more frontal personality as well. But firstly, let's see the celestial, the core soul energy that they see in you. 3 of Pentacles, 4 of Pentacles, 6 of Cups reversed, there's the past. Queen of Swords, there's the Binar, Ace of Cups. Okay, this is the balance too. This is, Pentacles are not necessarily masculine, but like I think this is the feminine energy, this is the masculine energy. So the masculine energy and the past, present, future. You're developing actually more, whether it's in this life or in another life, more towards the divine feminine. It's within you, but like you're developing more towards that. But right now you're being asked to do more the kind of the material, what we would think of as masculine. Your spirit guide is saying that at the moment you are building a foundation, you are building a team, you are building the people around you, material outcomes, all of that sort of thing. They see you as very focused on that, the material world, and how to create something that's a stable foundation for yourself and for others. The growth energy of strength. Actually, it interests me that this is sort of shown sort of growing up in what looks like a city where there maybe has been some sort of deterioration of the city. So I almost feel like some of you may be involved in like some form of urban renewal, and it doesn't mean it's literally that you're sort of constructing something, but there's sort of a sense of like revitalizing the material basis, the foundation, the strength, the safety of a group in some way. That's how your guide is seeing you in the present. In the past, it's just simply saying you're drawing on the past, and there is a lot of sort of like purity within that, but you're needing to bring it into the material world and also keep things in balance in terms of the heart, keep the heart and the mind in balance. And I feel like that's more the future, and it could very well be the future that you're growing in this life. So you move from a very divine masculine sort of focus and draw on that energy from the past. And then after that, it's like you establish a place of the heart. Like it's what I'm getting, like, and this is not exactly urban, but I'm getting it's like the return of Camelot. Like I feel like there was once a beautiful concept, and you know, like the masculine energy, the Knights of the Round Table, King Arthur, all of that kind of thing, drawing on that in past, present and future, the once and future king, okay? The once and future king. And you are now looking at how you could find, and yeah, again, it's very Camelot actually, the sense of the collaboration, the people that are of good heart, the people that will come together to create something that is firm, that is fair. You know, there's something very balanced about 4 Pentacles, about a square. It's sort of like it's a balanced energy, balance and justice and so forth, to bring about the return of the Grail, the return of the heart. So you're on a soul level, your spirit guide feels like it's a bit like the return of the king. It's a bit like that kind of energy. Now, it could play out on any number of ways, but that's sort of who you are. That's sort of what they see in you. So what does that mean for your frontal personality at the moment? 3 of Swords, Temperance, 6 of Wands reversed, 2 of Pentacles reversed, Page of Pentacles. There's some deep pain, some almost loss of innocence from the past. For some of you, this may be bringing and rectifying something that did fall apart that you felt shouldn't have fallen apart. Because I feel like the past energy, I feel like this is the past energy, because you're past, present and future. I think this is the past, the present and the future. The past, there was something that was a defeat or something that wasn't, you know, your spirit guides see whether this was in this life or another, but it's probably this life, earlier in this life, something where something you didn't get the due, you didn't get seen, you weren't able to win at something. So right now you're healing from that and bringing it into balance, because you're strong enough and balanced enough, and you have a deep enough sense of history to know that even if there is the urban decay, something new can grow, but you have to get over the pain. And the future is not yet decided as to what it's going to be. And it can't be yet, because on a soul level, you're kind of like still working out what is the material thing that you would want to grow and the people that you would want involved in it. When that has progressed a bit, then you will be able to make the choices to manifest this and plan and bring it into being. This is definitely why the masculine is turning up here, even though we're really talking about the heart and a lot of the sort of like nurturing energy of the divine feminine. You have to have worked out a material outcome. For some of you, this could be about starting a family if it's been difficult to do. And there's a sort of like getting over the past, building the physical sense and the physical self to be able to then bring that into being. I'm getting that if that's the case for some of you, you might end up with twins. But like beyond that, I think for most this is about something that didn't quite work, but you're bringing into balance, and you have this sense of history to know how to do that. And you're healing. So right now your spirit guide is saying you're healing so that you can then take things into the future and make the choices, but you won't make them prematurely. So I think that your spirit guide thinks you're very wise about that. You are hurt at the moment, but you are wise about the timing around things. So how would your spirit guide like you to evolve? Page of Cups. Eight of Pentacles, the Moon, and the Ten of Pentacles. So I said the Sun needs the Moon. Right now you're having to focus on the divine masculine. Eventually you evolve to the divine feminine. That's why you're coming up as a paradox. You're both those things, no matter what your gender is, no matter what you're feeling about that. And it doesn't mean you have to suddenly be gender fluid. It's not about that. It's about those sort of energies. So at the moment you need to focus on the Sun. That's where the growth is. The divine masculine, the material world, what you want to build. But eventually you turn your mind to developing the heart again, opening the heart, defining the heart, and bringing back and bringing into balance the skills that you have around the divine feminine, and you can let the material go. So this is sort of like, it's almost like, as I say, it is like the return of the king. It is like bringing Camelot back. It is like there's a process to do that. And you have a role at the moment, and that is to be that sort of like leader to do that. And your reward in the end is that you can move on and find your divine feminine. So it's almost as though you come in and you do the urban renewal and then you leave it. This is something you do for the community in a way. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to walk away from everybody if you've got a life there now, but it's like you don't have to be that patriarch forever. It's like there's a point at which you can then focus on your heart. But right now your spirit guide is saying you're focusing on the building of something material. You're focusing on the growth. You're focusing on your strength. Eventually you can put down that. You can let it go. Doesn't mean you lose it. You can just put it down, and you can focus on the moon, and you can focus on the heart. Very interesting. So let's get a few other ways of describing you that your spirit guide would like to say. So firstly, I wanted to look at your kind of instinctive self, and I thought the best way to do that is to get a spirit animal. So what would your guide say your instinctive self, your natural self would be? Cheetah. Oh, isn't that beautiful? This makes a lot of sense. The cheetah energy within this, beyond just being beautiful, it's a beautiful card, isn't it? Is about focus. So this is when you are, in a sense, all things. When your spirit guide is saying you are the balance of all these things, but at the moment you have to focus on something, and you're understanding past, present, and future, and how history is made by the points of focus, so to speak. Your natural instinct is to focus where you need and to be very fixed on that. And this is, like, as I say, I think right now your spirit guide is saying, although you are all both the feminine and the masculine, all of that kind of thing, you need to be focused on the masculine side of things, And then when that is built, you shift the focus to the feminine to bring it all into balance. So you have a natural ability to focus where you need to and to create what you need to. It's one of the reasons why you are meant to be a leader, because the leader has to be able to focus, has to be able to sort of see the future, has to be able to understand the past, has to be able to do all the things that you can do. What's your inspirational energy then? What guides say was your inspirational energy? That's interesting. This came up for one of the others. Orange, enthusiasm, fun, vitality. So one of the things that works for you is, although there's a sort of like a focus and there's a building, that one of your strengths is that you can make other people enthusiastic about what you're doing. That's why you can be a natural leader. You've got quite a lot of natural charisma. You can bring people in. You can make them excited. You can make them think it's fun to build this new world. So it's not all heavy at all. You actually have a kind of infectious enthusiasm that can bring people along with you. And your spirit guide is saying, don't forget that, your focus on its own is like a form of enthusiasm. It is infectious. People sort of think that's what the cool kids do. That's what we're going to do, that kind of energy. Okay, and let's see an astrological pairing of planets that your spirit guide would say described you. Neptune and Pluto. Yeah, this is the inspirer for the new world. The idealist and the change agent. The big changes connected to the ideals. This is the very Arthurian energy. The seeker of the grail, the seeker of the major transformation, the seeker of the world that we could transform into that is the ideal rather than just a dream. Very inspiring, very psychic, very creatively inspiring as well. But ultimately, you're here to make a change. Because again, you see the past, present, and the future. You kind of understand the arc of time over a long period of time. So what about your heart? Because I do think you are allowed to get your heart a little bit later, and that will ultimately be the thing that drives everything and brings everything into balance. Where does your spirit guide feel your heart is at the moment? Daring heart, learn to lead from wisdom. Yeah. You've got to be daring. You've got to go forward. You've got to be the leader. Even if it was painful before, you're going to be able to stir this up. You're going to be able to make it happen this time. It may have been that the time just wasn't right before, and that was part of the learning. Let's see the magic, therefore, that your spirit guide says you have to be this leader, to be this daring heart, to be this change agent, to be this inspirer. Abundance. You can manifest. This is why we're seeing all these pentacles. You manifest something. It's like the urban renewal, as I said. It's like the return of the king. It's like the abundance. It's being able to sort of grow something. It's like, and that does have a divine feminine energy to it, but it's very much like leading in the divine masculine and then balancing it off to make it sustainable, I think, and to make it of the heart, which is also important for abundance, so that, that you continue to get the apples. You don't just get them in one harvest. They continue to grow. And the lunar dancer, channeling lunar energy and power. Yeah, like ultimately, this is why I'm saying ultimately you are probably more tilting towards the divine feminine, towards the moon. But for the moment, your spirit guide is saying that part of you that is the divine masculine is being called to the front. And so it could seem paradoxical. It maybe doesn't seem particularly comfortable sometimes. But remember, you really do have this that is very natural. It's very natural to you to be able to connect to that. But it's like at the moment it's focusing on the material so that then it's almost like, actually what I suddenly saw, it's like the divine masculine energy for the moment, the leadership around that is like, well, there's two analogies I get. One is it's like being the architect. And then later on you get to be the interior decorator as well. So you get the structure and all of that right. The other is almost like the divine masculine energy is laying down the paint for a painting that kind of like prepares the canvas, and then the lunar energy can come because it's safe, it's secure, you're able to develop there, allows you to really express the creativity and so forth, and the fun and the enthusiasm as well. Okay, so just to finish off, I just want to get you a wild card. So what I'm asking your spirit guide for here is a wild card to describe what they would really hope for you, what they really want for you at the moment, but in a kind of a left of field or somewhat unexpected way, potentially. Ooh, okay. I am listening. Subconscious intuition, message from the spirit. There may be, your spirit guide may be saying here that you're carrying so much and balancing so much that you may sometimes detach from them. They want you to connect more with them. They want you to connect more with them because they're going to help you to see this. They're going to help you to heal. They're going to help you to see that you are all the things, not just the thing. It might be saying that the time period around all the sort of material stuff that needs to be done in the divine masculine, it might drag out for a while. So I think they want you to check in to reconnect with your lunar dancer, reconnect with your sort of inner divine feminine, keep things in balance. There are challenges, but like I think your spirit guide feels that sometimes you aren't tuning in, and that would be helpful for you if that was the case. So I think they just want to be more connected to you a little bit more often, pile 3. I hope that resonates for you. I hope you enjoyed the reading. I hope that it feels like you and that what your spirit guide feels natural to you. If you did enjoy it, please like the video and subscribe. If you care to share in the comments, I'd love to hear. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings.